Sorry guys, I got all set up here, turned on the camera, jumped in, realized I had some pipes hanging off the side. They were going to be in my way for the presentation. So today we're going to teach you something. This is the best way to sharpen a chainsaw. Everything that you've seen on YouTube, everything that you've ever learned about sharpening chainsaws is going to go out the window. Now, this is not about angles. It's not about grinds. It's not about how you steepen the angle to rip and you shorten the angle to cut deep, hardwood, softwood. I'm going to presume that you all know how to sharpen a chainsaw the traditional way. I'm going to presume that you know how to do a chisel point tip. If you don't, then please, by all means, go on YouTube, watch some of the excellent sharpening videos that explain angles and the way the tip is supposed to come together and the clearance and how to knock down the rakers. There's a lot of really good information on video already, but the biggest problem is that out here in the real world, things go sideways. So, I've got files. Understand that I don't come into this thing not knowing the way that most people do it. This is one of my field kits, and if I just pull out one thing about files that a lot of you don't realize, if you're going to carry multiple files, get some file bags. These things are delicate. You've got to, let me see if this focus is following me or if it's good or what we've got here. I don't know. The only reason I'm doing this video is because for the first time in 8 months, the sun finally came out for a minute. I'm going to try to do it all in one take. Mainly because the sun's probably going to only be out for an hour, and if I have to do anything else, we're going to be back into, I'm in Washington, so we got, it rains out here. But anyway, files. They need to be protected. And I've got files in every type and style and configuration, from trapezoidal $28 steel files to the old round files in all the different sizes. And I've always been around chainsaw sharpeners. My dad was a chainsaw sharpener. I live in logging country. Everybody has to know how to sharpen a chainsaw. I have taken it to another level. I also sharpen knives. I sharpen scissors. I sharpen chisels. I sharpen anything that can be sharpened. I sharpen tool bits for my lathe. And sharp is a thing with me. I mean, shaving sharp is where it starts. Once you no longer shave and you're taking out skin, scalpel fashion, taking off your epidermis, that's sharp. We don't need a chainsaw that sharp, but here's the thing. This is another thing. Go on the YouTube if you're not a sharpener and learn how to sharpen. One of the things that you'll notice, I'll grab a prop here. What I'll get as a prop. Okay, this is a rasp that happened to be laying loose. Pretend it's a knife. You see these guys holding a stone and going dig it, dig it, dig it, dig. Stupid. They've never gotten anything sharp. You see these guys putting sandpaper down on glass and dragging the knife over it. Over and over, getting something they call a rolled edge, then knocking the rolled edge off and dragging it again and then stropping. Let me tell you something, folks. The only time to drag a blade in the real world, dragging means going this way. The only time to do that is if you're doing something called stropping, which means like, think cutthroat razor, think sharp, think back in the day sharp. Think about stuff that is so bloody sharp that you stand the blade this way to shave with it, all right? Stropping is a thing, I'll agree. We're not going to strop, but here's the deal. All chainsaws, traditionally through the years, you find a way to affix the chain and then you push a round file outward. Or if you're really all cool like that, you go out and buy a trapezoidal or a octagonal or there's a bunch of different cuts. There's some safe edge rectagonal files, all single cuts, and that way you can get the tooth configuration that you want to a certain point. They're ground to various, but again, they all teach, they put gauges and things on there, but they're all teaching you how to file outward. Pretend that this is a blade. You never ever file outward, it just goes. So all my life, since I was 14 years old, I've been filing inward. The old round files, round chainsaw teeth, everybody sits them like this and they run their round file and they push it out and it gets a rolled edge, and I could feel that. So I've been flipping that over and filing inward for a long time, and I thought I was all good like that. I would get to be the, the chainsaw sharpening guy if I was on a crew that had chainsaws. Then I found the square files and the triangular file, not triangular, but odd trapezoidal shaped, different things. We got into the square tooth style, Oregon chain and steel, a little bit of husky. I think pioneered this idea of chisel points. Again, I'm not going to draw pictures. I'm not going to do anything out here because I'm outside. I'm in the yard. But what I'm going to do is show you a completely different way. The end of my evolution, I sharpened with everything under the sun. And I ended up, I'm going to get a big one here. This is called a goofy file. They can only be bought at one outfit down in, I'm not even going to give out the name because I don't know if I dare do that. They might think they don't want to be on my video. But they're out of California. They're an actual logging supply store. And if you search goofy file, you might find it. This is a rectagonal file with a rounded cutting edge. I guess I could try to show this. Don't know that out here in the sun this is going to happen at all. I'm just not that good with this close-up stuff. But if it happened, you'll see that this is a single cut. Now I need to get back out to where I'm supposed to be. I hope this video even works. This is a rounded edge, and it's to be used from the outside, cutting in on a saw. So, we're going to start by showing you the proper moves. First we got to find, now I've got this rack up here, and I might just end up using it. This rack, I can, once I get it slammed in and set up right, I can just turn the blade, and I sharpen up here. But barring that, saw set up like a real saw. You gotta have dogs on it that work. I cut right into my groove. Okay, I'm gonna have to back this off, so it might not work as well. I cut my groove too deep. Guess I should have practiced this a little bit. There, we're getting it. Now, as usual, I came totally unprepared. Might have to put the groove on the other side, guys. Okay, that'll work. For demonstration purposes, that's going to work just fine. So, we come over here, get a little more of a picture on the saw. Now there's a few things that you must know about sharpening. Number one, you wear gloves when you sharpen. This is not to protect your hand so much as to give you something for the file to run against. You can see the threads are all worn out on this one. It's busted because I've run a file down it so many times. But it's so you can grab and move the blade when it's sharp without hurting yourself. Yes, in that sense, it's to protect you a little bit. But the idea is to give you something to be able to file against. Because filing naked, you'll end up, over time, your hands will get so sore and you'll get bloody grooves in them. So stop all that. Put on some gloves. You gotta have gloves. Now, I'll show you some of the things that I use here. The next thing is, once you get the blade set where you want it, once you get the bar set where you want it, once you get the angle set to where you want them, you have to make sure that the chain is tight, because we're going to be filing from the outside in so that we're not rolling our edge. These are, you have to pick a tooth and mark it somehow, okay? You must brightly mark a tooth. Now, these chalk sticks don't really work very well. We always have them with us because we're out in the woods, so we have chalk sticks for marking lumber. The problem is they don't work that great. The next thing is this is a Pro line. This is a Sharpie. These are shaker pens with a big meaty, you take yourself a piece of, you go like this and it leaves a big old white blotch. You can see that tooth from here, I'm gonna guess. Again, I'm filming outside. The other options are paint, a small thing of bright paint. Open this up, find a twig, dip the twig. Somehow though, you gotta pick a tooth and get it bright, bright, bright. That's number one, that's the rule. So these are different ones. This is actually white out, it works okay, but the end tends to clog. Now, you take an appropriate file. This one was taught by loggers out here. All over I have every chainsaw sharpening jig imaginable. Every style and type and shape of chain. Sharpening things is a passion of mine. A friend of mine bought the big stand-up saw grinder from Wayne's Saw Shop in town, oldest saw shop in Washington, when they went out of business. I've got 10 or 12 spare brand sharp chains in there. They're either new or they're sharpened beyond new. But this is for sharpening on the field, in the field, to sharper than a brand new Oregon chain. I use Oregon chain because I guess I'm from Washington, and out here we use Oregon chains. So with a goofy file, you get your angle right and you sharpen. In this case, I'm sharpening these back. So I ride against my glove, I get my angles, and I match. Okay, that's a way. Then we advance, we keep chasing this around. And that's all well and good. This method works okay. This is the best way to file sharpen a chainsaw, having tried all of them. Goofy file, know the moves, know how to get to the proper angles, use your whole body. These are basic sharpening details. Set yourself, now I do it up here on the rack, but for right now I'm going to do it here. But now there is one step beyond this, because here's what happens. I've got lumber, timber out here. I go out and I cut off a 12 or 14 foot maple stub that's got a bunch of sprouts coming up out of it. I've got stuff out here that's got 15 shoots this big around coming out of an old maple stump that was cut off back in the day. As I go cutting through there, I live in fear. If I touch the tiniest bit of gravel, which somehow, I don't know, birds bring it in or what, but between these maples are notorious for having little pockets of dirt and grit. It's probably wind-blown sand. You're going along and all of a sudden the saw quits cutting. Now understand, when I say quits cutting, I go up for instance, up there on the range, there's a bunch of these big, huge maples that have been cut off back in the day, and now they got chunks. So I have to climb up and teeter around on top and reach out and cut off branches, you know, up to as big as my wrist. If you reach into something and you touch it and the saw pulls, it's dull. It's crap. It's no good. That saw's got to cut so nice that you don't even feel it hit the wood. So what happens is, you get out and you may touch the ground because you're bucking. You may hit a rock, but it rounds these little teeth off and it work hardens them. And the next thing you know, you stick the file on there. I can see right now that I'm gonna have to come up a little bit, so bear with me. I can't get my angle here, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, this is great. I know y'all wanted to watch my butt climb up and down here. This old tractor's got some miles on her, and she's lights tend to stay on because there's a busted switch, so I have to unhook the battery, and she sags. I had this log set at the right place. But here is the culmination, the reason for this video. Now, like everything else, you've got to realize that the trick is in the preparations. The number one thing, and I'm never prepared, but when it comes down to making the moves, I'm prepared. Whether you're painting a car or setting up for a shot, preparation is everything. So what I've done here, and you're gonna do this out in the woods probably, but you notice this, and I hope some of you are curious about what this is. This is the key to the whole video. Learn how to sharpen and get the tri-cut angles and what have you. Learn how to, I sharpen on here, and it's so easy for me. I've got a spot here, this thing moves, and I've got racks, and I'm all set up to get up where I'm perfect with this. But out in the woods, this right here is the trick. Now I wish I could get one of these that went forward and backward, but here's the thing, real world chainsaw sharpening. You get out, you start cutting the kind of timber we cut around here. You may be removing a stump, you may be running, whatever the reason is, you hit dirt, you hit rocks, you hit something. And it work hardens the tips of these teeth and it rolls them off. You get up and look at that chainsaw tooth, instead of coming out to a nice sharp chisel with a return, the end of that chisel is rounded off and it takes one touch to something that's not wood. And all of a sudden, every one of these teeth is rounded. But worse than that, they're all work hardened. And you get all up there and you know you got 45 minutes of filing to draw that tooth back. And you hit down there with the file, you get your signed up to where you're, you know, I do everything from this side and then do everything from this side. And this is why we have to have this bright mark on here. But when that file hits and it goes, again, this is not for newbies, this is not for beginners, this is not for people that are out cutting birch for campfires twice a year in Minnesota. This is for people who use a saw. And this is for not, now if you're getting paid by the hour and it goes, you go, oh, I got 45 minutes to sit here and sharpen this saw and I get paid for it. I don't get paid for this. So I use this. The trick is to get your angles. You get one angle from this side and you get one angle from this side. I'm not going to try to get you down there, but trust me, you can get your angles with this. I would put on some glasses before I touch down. There's a few other things. But this right here is worth the price of this video. This is the biggest thing. You get good with this, and again, you have to be good with hand tools. You make moves, you get in like this, you You recut that angle. You come around like this, you cut that angle. You can see, you get right down, you can see the angles with this thing. You go right down, you dress that back, you bring it back to a chisel point. When it's all done, you can go in there with your file. In my case, it's a goofy file, because goofy is the way to go. And you won't find them anywhere except this professional logging supply in California, and a few of the saw shops up here in Washington, and a few in southern and eastern Oregon, where logging is still a thing. But if you're not good enough with this to get the perfect, sharpest, absolutely cut without any effort whatsoever with using one of these, this happens to be a Ryobi. They used to make one that went both ways and it was super easy. You could dance down the blade. Zoop, 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 zoop. Unfortunately, due to the fact that we allow the stupid people to vote, no, not allow them, because we've been outvoted, they went the way of the wind. Political climate killed them. COVID killed them. So now we have to use one of these, but that is the trick. Think with me, learn how to sharpen, but learn to use a cordless, thin blade. Never again in your life will you live in fear of hitting a rock or some gravel or messing up your job. And that's really it. So when I said the coolest chainsaw video ever, this hopefully will allow you to skip some steps. It doesn't teach you how to sharpen.